is James Kalm again, the bike, and we're here at the Jules De Balincourt opening of Ecstatic Contacts here in Salon 94 on the Bowery. Carlo McCormick. What was the title of the show again?
Ecstatic Contact.
Ecstatic Contact. And we were here at the opening and we snuck back to ask Jules some questions. Tell me about this painting.
This painting is called Idol Hands. Idol, I-D-O-L. Like this idea of sort of everyone sort of commemorating their own sort of mentor or hero. It's sort of everyone has their own sort of role model or little
They're fans of somebody.
Fans of some sort.
Yeah.
Or commemorating someone of some sorts. But
Now,
no, it's not. The show's not necessarily about a specific place or specific people. It's more of a general kind of like macro lens.
yes, but you've had kind of a theme like that in several of your shows where you have kind of a, I don't know whether you call it a utopia or a dystopia or kind of a fantasy land that you've done a lot of pieces about. Where do you see that? I mean, where is that for you?
Well, initially I was just sort of making paintings, and then I realized more and more I was sort of creating these sort of like, always these sort of social scenes in public places, and these sort of like marginal sort of enclaves or small groups gathering, sort of this sort of utopian ideal of people sort of having their own sort of ideal or community.
And not all the time, it doesn't always go the right way too, because I've seen somewhere it's kind of getting a little, going off the tracks maybe.
I like to keep things a little bit open-ended, where everything has the potential to sway in like a dystopian or utopian sort of, there's always like this utopian, dystopian potential, even just with technology in general.
Right.
Like the internet or technology,
Well, here's another thing, I remember one of your first shows, you actually had a little, like a cityscape that would fill up with water. Yeah. And after the last, I guess it was a week and a half ago when we had Hurricane Sandy here, you actually had a chance to see that.
That's right. Luckily we were blessed here, and we didn't go through what Chelsea had to go through, because I would have had paintings would have been a bunch of floating crackers in the soup bowl, because this place is 20 feet below ground. So
okay, let's go downstairs and look at some of the other paintings. Well, we'll sweep around here and take a look at the paintings. It's really nice to get down here when there isn't a crowd of people in front. Let's take a look at this one here. What is the title on this piece?
This is actually the title of the show, Ecstatic Contact.
Now, I kind of mentioned this to you as we were talking before about the fact that a lot of this work is kind of verging on abstraction, and but you've always had kind of a figurative element. Tell me about where that figuration and abstraction sort of come together, or diverge.
Well, I've always sort of struggled with abstract painting, or for myself making abstract painting, or even appreciating abstract painting. Most art I like is not really, quotes, abstract. I mean, you could say any painting is abstract. You could zoom in on a Manet
right.
and say a Manet is abstract.
Parts of it are abstract.
So I've always sort of battled with abstraction. I always sort of need to have something to latch on to. Even when I try to make an abstract painting, I still have like a figurative, I still have like the figurative element.
References, right.
In it. But I once made a painting that was called, we regret to inform you there's currently no space for abstract painting. So I was really kind of like resistant to it. Or I've always found like abstraction to be sort of like this frivolous, like self-masturbatory sort of like formal
game playing, you know.
Just mark-making game playing. I needed something to ground it in some kind of reality of sorts. So even though there's abstract elements, I'm still usually, I wouldn't consider myself like an abstract painter, I guess you could say.
Well, where do you think you fit in? Are you a neo-expressionist? Are you a nouveau figurative artist? An ironic figuration person? Do you have a category you find yourself in?
I don't think I'm not trying to be ironic. I don't know. That's for people to. I don't know what.
You just make the paintings and let everybody else deal with all the categories.
Yeah, it's a conglomeration of a lot of things. I guess there's everyone in here, from Warhol to Manet to even maybe Rothko. I don't know. I'm inspired by all of them. Matisse, obviously.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking. Let's take a look at this piece. What's the title of this?
This is called Tangier, 1912-2012. This is actually directly sort of based off of a Matisse painting.
I could recognize it.
I looked at it from a book, and originally I did the initial first. You see the initial first head under there?
Oh yeah, I can see that.
And then I did the second one. So I looked at one from the book, and then I did the second one from memory. The idea was like the 1912 version of Tangier and then the 2012. And I just sort of updated it with a watch. So it's like, in a way, like the traditional garb is still there, but there's just this hint reminder of like a modern look to it. But even now, the watch is sort of anachronistic. It's like no one even
Everybody's got their little cell phones that does everything for them.
So it's already dated, I guess.
I had another question for you. We've talked about this. You're always painting on panels, you know, and we were talking about the fact that you seem to have an affinity for painting on wood, and when you start to get to panels that are this size, it kind of creates a different problem for you. And what is your feeling about the wood? Do you use it because you like the surface, or I know that you're doing some sanding and other things on there. Do you just find that the wood works better for you that way?
I initially started. So there's still a piece of tape here. Anyways, I peeled it off. I initially started actually painting on ceramics.
Really?
I never actually studied painting. I studied ceramics. So I was initially painting on clay. I was making these clay tablets. So it was all about like the mass of the clay with the ceramic pigments. So then I wanted to start working on, and I started working on wood because I wanted the surface and sanding and incising and stenciling, and there's a certain rigidity to it that I like. And I also like it almost becomes like a billboard, sort of like, I just don't like the materiality of staples and canvas.
So you like the kind of the fact that it becomes an object more?
Yeah, I like the actual object and the quality of the object. The canvas to me is sort of this cheap thing of staples and canvas. And
cheap?
It is.
Okay. Let's drift over and take a look at this one. I like this piece as well.
This is called Pangea 2012. I mean, I've done like different map paintings that were more specific about like American U.S. politics. And
yes.
This one is more.
I'm a big fan of maps.
This one is more just the idea of like, it's a small world after all. Again, all these sort of countries regrouping or regathering or closeness or one world kind of idea. This is Africa, Antarctica, Australia, India. You know.
Let's drift on down this way again. This is another large piece that has a lot of what I would call abstract elements, but here again, you know, you've got, looking for more masking tape?
Yeah, I am.
You've got your little figurative elements in here.
Well, initially it was just a purely abstract painting.
Yes.
I was sort of just making this, and then I needed something, I don't know, I just needed something more to grasp onto. It was just these lines, and it just wasn't enough for me to believe in. I wanted to kind of create this scene of like either explosion or jubilation, kind of a collision of both worlds, a potential explosion or celebration.
Now is this...
And this idea of these kind of transient, floating nomads, sort of, I don't know.
Is this oil, acrylic? I see you've got some spray paint in there.
Oil, spray paint, and oil stick.
An oil stick.
And oil paint, and a little bit of spray paint, which I've sort of veered away from because it's so stinky. A little spray paint occasionally. I try to, it's all open-ended. Different pieces require different materials.
Let's look at this and we'll wrap up on this piece. Kate, my wife, is a big fan of this piece. You know, also, I've been watching your work now for probably about 6 or 7 years, and
the third show you've documented.
yeah. But what I find interesting is that, and I mentioned this to you, that you've really bumped up the scale. And I remember a lot of the pieces from your early shows were, I guess what you'd say, maybe large easel size. But something like this really goes into the size of a mural. What kind of a challenge has that been for you to sort of move up in scale like that?
I guess, yeah, my first show with Zach almost 10 years ago now. My biggest painting was maybe 3 by 4 feet at the most.
Right.
And I guess over the years I've sort of, but I was also learning how to paint 10 years ago, and it's just part of like feeling more comfortable with materials and
being a more ambitious painter.
And being a more ambitious painter and having to show in these big ambitious spaces and wanting to work on a more physical level, like not so much the singular hand with the full body. It becomes like a physical feat of sorts, and not such a head-hand trip, but more of an actual body physicality to it.
Have you also become, say, more aware of some of the classic, like major painters, like some of the large Matisse paintings, and even some of the abstract expressionists who were painting large? Has that affected maybe your idea of how scale affects your images?
Yeah, I love some of Matisse's paintings, but how does scale affect my images? I wasn't really thinking of those guys when I decided to make big paintings. It was more just trying to make paintings that worked well with this space, I guess. I was sort of trying to work with the context of this space, but also being submerged by the painting, not just being fully immersed in it. I wanted to make these guys a little bit life-size to sort of have this sort of dominating effect, and then I wanted to make her. I made her to sort of sedate the madness of this energy with.
So you kind of planned this exhibition with the themes of the paintings. Each new painting I start is a response to the prior paintings. They're sort of like orbiting around each other. And how do I sort of formally and conceptually, like how do they, king and queen, or the next chapter in the book or something like that?
Negatives. How do these create these polarities between paintings or dialogue between paintings?
Well, okay. I want to thank you for taking the time out, Jules, to come and give us a look. What's the name of the show again?
Ecstatic Contact. And
the gallery is?
Salon 94 in the Bowery. 243 Bowery.
243 Bowery. All right. Thank you very much. And as always, thanks, Kate.
He's your wife? That's so sweet. You thank her every time?
My Funny Valentine.
Yeah.
Very nice. Thank you.